One of the most iconic symbols of the Christmas season is the crib. And each cathedral and church is adorned with a large crib. We have a beautiful one here in the cathedral, just here behind the sanctuary. And many homes have smaller versions. And of course, many Christmas cards feature that scene in the rustic outhouse where Jesus was born on a cold winter's night. It is believed that St. Francis of Assisi started the tradition of assembling the nativity scene in that way back in the 13th century. And it is something that became extremely popular everywhere. On a recent trip to Madrid, I was amazed at the amount of street stalls that specialized in selling parts for the crib. Any part you could possibly imagine you can get, from trees and shrubs and fences to miniature bales of hay and water troughs. The crib is very central to the life of people in Spain. It is something that's passed down from generation to generation. So each generation builds up new figures and new buildings and new animals and all the rest in the crib. And it's something that they take great delight in and pass on to the next generation to hold and to expand. So the crib is central to the festive season, and nothing can replace it, as it reminds us that we celebrate a birth, the birth of a child who would open the possibility of salvation for us all, and whose birth is a story of joy for people of faith everywhere. The problem, however, with the crib is that it's become so adorable, so cozy, so homely looking, that we don't realize fully the harshness of what it represents. Mary and Joseph were very far from home when Jesus was born. They were forced to travel because of the orders of a cruel dictator. There was no proper place available to rest for them, so they were forced to seek shelter in a cold and unsanitary outhouse. It was certainly no place for Jesus to be born, no place for any baby to be born. And in the weeks following his birth, his parents, Mary and Joseph, were forced to flee the paranoid King Herod as refugees to the land of Egypt. Herod slaughtered the innocent children that he felt one day might challenge for his throne. Instead of being a place of safety, of warmth, of comfort, the crib is a symbol of everything that troubled the world 2,000 years ago, and unfortunately still troubles the world today. It reminds us of homelessness, of terror, of war, of refugees, of poverty. All the things that seem to make the dream of peace on earth very distant indeed. In the past year, we have witnessed horrific violence and suffering in Ukraine, and continued violence in countries such as Syria and Yemen. During the past week, we have been reminded here in this diocese of the ongoing troubles in the Lebanon, which took the life of one of our own young men, peacekeeper Private Sean Rooney. And we keep the Rooney family in our hearts today and salute one of our best who died in the cause of maintaining peace. Unfortunately, the circumstances of Jesus' birth are being reenacted for us the world over in the conditions of refugees, including infants and children, as they travel in fear and confusion. We ourselves have all seen the terrible pictures from Ukraine. We are appalled and saddened by the death of so many people amid the devastation of places like Mariupol, Donetsk, or Kharkiv. And sometimes we rush in haste to defend God because we're trying to prop up our own shaky faith. and silence the doubts and the fears that lurk within all of us. But today, we don't defend God. We let God speak for himself, because there is a word from God. And that word became flesh. And the truth is that he cast in his lot with us in the here and now, in the reality of our lives. So when we ask, where was God when the missile struck, when the shell exploded, when the building collapsed? We have to say that God was right there, bearing the brunt of it all. God was there, clinging to his beloved children against the surging tide of hatred. I believe that God knows and understands the experience of all those who suffer innocently and without blame. Because the promise of Christmas is not just that the Word became a cute little baby, but that the Word became flesh and cast in his lot with us completely, utterly, and eternally. The message of this great feast, the message of the crib, is that we are not alone. God is with us. And knowing this should lift our hearts today, not in complacency, not in an avoidance of reality, but in the realization that we hold within us all year long the joy of this moment, the joy that no power, no evil, no trauma can shake. God has sent his Son. Our faith in him will save us. Glory to God in the highest, and peace to his people on earth.